While searching for advice, tips, and a bit of motivation when my business was struggling, I came across this book, How to Win at the Sport of Business by Mark Cuban. He shares his story and the lessons he learned on his journey to becoming worth $5.7 billion. And I will share 9 lessons that have delivered real results for me. You never quite know in business whether what you're doing is right or wrong, says Mark. Many people become scared when things go wrong and choose to stay away from entrepreneurship, and that's a shame. I know you, yes, you watching this video, have some incredible idea or experience that could help someone or even make the world a better place. But statistically, most of you will never act on it, and that's a real shame for all of us. There may be different reasons for this, but I bet fear, especially the fear of making mistakes, is the most common one. Mark says that he told himself that it's okay to make little mistakes, as long as he doesn't make the big ones. He had a minimal computer background, but he was still able to compete with far more experienced people in the business. How's that possible? A young kid beating the big guys, I hear you asking? Well, Mark was reading every book and every magazine he could. $3 for a magazine and $20 for a book. All it takes is one good idea that brings a new customer or a solution, and all those magazines and books paid for themselves many times over. Today, it's even easier. We can listen to podcasts or watch videos like this one on YouTube. Mark says that while some ideas were good and others weren't, he learned a valuable lesson. Everything I read was public. Anyone could buy the same books and magazines. The same information was available to anyone who wanted it. And guess what? It turns out most people didn't want it. He would talk to customers or others in the industry about what he'd read, expecting them to know about it. But that wasn't the case. They didn't know. They hadn't read those things. Most people won't put in the time to gain a knowledge advantage, says Mark. And often, that's the very thing that determines whether you stay in business or not. Mark was also learning from watching what some of the best companies at the time were doing. One year, he managed to get into a Microsoft party, which he said was known as the best business party of its time. I think Mark will never forget that night. Listen to what he says about it. I was on my way to having a memorable night. I had met some very, very attractive women and got them some tickets to go with me. All is good. We're having fun. And then we see him, Bill Gates himself. He was dancing and going all in. At that time, Microsoft went public and Bill Gates was a big star. Well, long story short, I go to the bar to grab some drinks for all of us. But when I come back, the girls aren't there. It was only the next day when I found out that Bill stole my girls. As I would learn later in life, money makes you extremely handsome. Is that the second lesson, Matt? No. Don't worry, you can take this as a bonus lesson. Microsoft plays quite an important role in Mark's career, and it taught him a big business lesson. Always ask yourself how someone could beat your products or service. How can someone put me out of business? Can they beat me on price, ease of use, or perhaps quality? As Mark says, no product is perfect, and if there are good competitors in your market, they will find a way to get you. You need to be prepared for that. And the best way to do so is to be honest with yourself and anticipate where the problems will come from. Business is a sport, just like baseball or ice hockey, but business has several twists to it. In sport, you know who your opponents are. You also know when you have the match and how long it will last. It's mentally and physically exhausting to be at the top of the game, but it's still nothing compared to the effort required to be successful in business, says Mark. The sport of business is not divided into games. There are no practices you have to attend. There are no strict rules that everyone has to play by. It's a sport you play 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, forever. That's what success is all about. It's about the edge. It's not who you know. It's not how much money you have. It's very simple. It's whether or not you have the edge and have the guts to use it, says Cuban. Whenever I find myself complaining about an unsuccessful month or not reaching my goals, I remind myself of the edge. Did I really give it my all? Could I have pushed myself even more? Let me ask you an uncomfortable question. Do you realize what it really takes? Are you willing to make significant sacrifices? To help your answer, here's how Mark describes the edge. If I were you, I would write down each of these business mantras. It's just pure value, no BS, condensed into a few mantras from someone who's already made it. The edge is getting so excited about what you do that you spend 24 hours straight working on a project, thinking that only a couple of hours had passed. The edge is knowing that you have to be the smartest person in the room when you have your meeting. You know you have to put in the effort to learn whatever you need to learn to get there. The edge is knowing that when each of the 4 partners you've had over the past few years asked you what was more important, them or your business, you gave the right answer. It is also knowing that you can fail and learn from it and get back up into the game. The edge is knowing that people think you're crazy and that they are right, but you don't care what they think. It is also knowing how to blow off steam a couple of times a week, just so you can refocus on the business. The edge is knowing that you are getting to your goals and treating people right along the way. The edge is confidently calling someone out on a business issue because you came well prepared. But it is also recognizing when you are wrong and working harder to make sure it does not happen again. The edge is being able to dig down to identify problems and solve them before anyone knows they are there. And finally, the edge is knowing that while everyone else is talking about nonsense like the will to win and how they know they can be successful, you are preparing yourself to compete so that you will be successful. That's what makes business such an amazing sport. Everyone plays it. Everyone talks about how good they are or will be, but just a small percentage are, says Mark. It's the ultimate competition, and I really like the way Mark describes it. Let's play a game called Eat Your Lunch. We're going to face off. My ability to execute an idea versus yours. My ability to disrupt your business versus your ability to keep it going. My ability to know what you're going to do before you do it versus you actually doing it. Who gets there first? This is the sport of business. It's not for everyone, but I love it, says Mark. In sports, the only thing a player can truly control is effort. And the same applies to business. For Mark, this meant getting up early, staying up late, and consuming everything he possibly could to get an edge. I had to commit to making the effort to be as productive as I possibly could. Mark knew that he had to make sure that every hour of the day that he could contact a customer was selling time. And when customers were sleeping, he was doing things that prepared him to make more sales and to make his company better. But that's not all. He says, finally, I had to make sure I wasn't lying to myself about how hard I was working. It would have been easy to judge effort by how many hours a day passed while I was at work. That's the worst way to measure effort. Effort is measured by setting goals and getting results. Later in the book, Mark shares a lesson he learned from basketball coach Bob Knight, and I think it goes hand in hand with this lesson. Everyone has the will to win. It's only those with the will to prepare that do win. Here are 12 mantras that guided Mark to success. Time is more valuable than money. How wisely you use your time will have far more impact on your life and success than any amount of money. Commit random acts of kindness. Being successful means being able to not only get along with people, but also give something back. No one gets to the top on their own. You have to go for it. Once you're prepared, you just have to go for it. Remember, ideas without execution are worthless. Don't let fear be a roadblock. You can either use fear as a roadblock or as motivation. As Mark puts it, in the search for success, you can fail any number of times, but you only have to get it right one time. Expect the unexpected and always be ready. You never know when the opportunity window opens or closes. Everyone has inside of them what it takes to be successful. Just be ready and take the opportunity. It's okay to yell and be yelled at. It's a part of business, especially when you and your business partner or employees share the same level of passion. Everyone gets down. The key is how soon you get back up. Every single person goes through times when you barely want to get out of bed. The motivation levels are at zero. But the key is how you push through these moments. The people who become truly successful are the ones who fight through quickly and come back stronger and smarter. It's not whether the glass is half empty or half full, it's who's pouring the water. Mark says that the key in business and success in virtually anything is doing your best to control your destiny. You can't always do it, but take every opportunity to be as prepared as you possibly can. Take the lead, and you can control your own destiny. It's not the dreaming, it's the doing. Most people only dream about what they would do if they were successful or how they might get there. When I find myself daydreaming about my goals, I always try to snap out of it and ask myself how I'm going to get from where I am to where I want to be. What exactly will it take to make it happen instead of just dreaming about it, explains Mark. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Funny one, right? But what does it mean? Mark reminds us that while sometimes we need to push, the biggest mistake we can often make is getting greedy. Every good deal has a win-win solution. Business is built over years, and the value is measured by the overall benefits of a relationship, not by how much you squeezed out of a single deal. And finally, you only have to be right once. I've been fired from more jobs than most people have had, says Mark. I have started a stupid business that was destined to fail. I was selling powdered milk, and I have dated more girls than I wanted to. The beauty of success is that it doesn't matter how many times you've failed. You only have to be right once. There is no business without sales. Unfortunately, people starting their business often forget that. When you start, you will most likely have to become the salesperson for your product or service. And you need to become the best salesperson. Let me be clear, it's not about being able to talk anyone into anything, says Mark. The best salesperson is the one the customer trusts without question. The best salesperson knows that with every cold call, they're one step closer to helping someone. The best salesperson finds real fulfillment in seeing their customers satisfied. And the best salesperson wakes up early every morning, excited to get to the office, pick up the phone, and share exactly why they love their product, their job, and their clients. I love the feeling of starting a new project. There's so much to do, but you don't care. That initial burst of motivation and excitement helps you push through anything. And since you're starting from scratch, every step shows visible progress. It's like building a house. In the beginning, there's nothing. But once you start, every week brings big, noticeable changes. The foundation, the walls, the roof. After a while, though, the number of major visible changes slows down. You have to focus on a lot of necessary but almost invisible tasks. It's just not as much fun anymore. The feelings when you're starting a business are intoxicating, as Mark says. The adrenaline, the fear, the excitement, and the hope. Very often, with some first success, comes also the feeling of invincibility. I'm smart. I know what I'm doing. I will figure things out as I go. I will take on this new opportunity. Well, those were usually the times I made mistakes, says Mark. It's a huge lesson for entrepreneurs, he adds. Win the battles you are in first, then worry about expansion internationally or into new businesses. You don't have unlimited time or attention. You may work 24 hours a day, but those 24 hours spent winning your core business will pay off far more, explains Mark. Every entrepreneur's mind goes crazy with the new and exciting things they can do beyond the things they're doing right now. But the risk is that you can drown in all of these opportunities, explains Mark. When we hit challenging times, we often feel tempted to start something new, but this temptation is a trap to avoid. From my personal experience, the best thing you can do in these moments is stay focused on your core business. Be honest with yourself and identify what needs improvement, or that one action that will make the biggest difference for your business. Usually, it's something you don't enjoy, like cold emailing or cold calling. I wish I'd known this sooner, as learning this lesson cost me tens of thousands of dollars, and that hurts. As Mark says, as an entrepreneur, you have to know what the core competencies of your business are. and make sure that your company focuses on being the absolute best it can be at executing them. If you're adding new things when your core business is struggling rather than facing the challenge, you are either running away from the problem or giving up. When I talk to people about business, most of them have an idea they'd love to turn into a small business so they can be their own boss. And when I ask if they've started working on it, the number one answer is, well, I don't have the money for it. If you're wondering what the second most common answer is, it's, I don't have time for it. The best businesses in recent history are those that started with little or no money, says Mark. Companies like Microsoft, Apple, and Amazon that began in dorm rooms, tiny offices, or garages. They didn't have 100-page business plans. I completely agree with Mark when he says that all he started with was a simple spreadsheet to track expenses. I did, and still do, the same. This way, you know exactly how much you need to make to break even. In the beginning, your main focus should be getting feedback. As you can see, this channel is new and still very small, which is why I'd love to ask for any feedback you can give, whether it's pressing the like or dislike button, or even better, leaving a comment. I'd really appreciate it. Mark says that many starting entrepreneurs think that based on the feedback they receive, they need to update their 100-page business plan and go to investors to raise money. It's as if the missing link for success in a business is cash to get started, he says. But as he explains, the moment you ask for someone else's money, you're playing by their rules. They now have the leverage, and they don't care about your dreams and goals. They care about getting their money back, and then some. There are only two reasonable sources of capital, says Mark: your own pocket and your customers' pockets. The reality is, for most businesses, they don't need more cash. They need more brains. The only way you can connect with your customers is to put yourself in their shoes. In the end, it's the customer that brings the money through the door. Mark shares a few customer service sayings that, as he admits, he tends to overuse, but they will help you understand how customer-obsessed he is. Treat your customers like they own you, because they do. You have to re-earn your customers every day. I believe Mark is as successful as he is because he truly goes the extra mile. His email is publicly available to anyone, and if you're lucky, you might even get a response. During games for his basketball team, the Dallas Mavericks, he sits in regular seats alongside the fans. This way, I know when the nachos are slow to arrive and the drinks are warm, he says. This is something to keep in mind because, as the saying goes, a happy customer might tell one person, but an unhappy customer will tell 20. Whether you're already running a business, just starting out, or still thinking about it, I believe at least one of Mark Cuban's lessons can help bring you closer to where you want to be. And if you could leave me some feedback in the comments, I'd really appreciate it, and we'll be sure to respond. If you want to stop letting stress and worrying control your life, watch the video you now see on the screen. My name is Matt, and I thank you for watching.